From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey everybody, how are we? Welcome to the Next Gen Report Tuesday evening live. It's a pleasure to be back with you. We're in a couple of different places right now. We're streaming on Facebook on the KTRH page. If you're watching there, good evening. How are you? We are also streaming on the KTRH Instagram page as well, just because why not? If you're watching from the KTRH Instagram page, good evening. And if you're listening to the podcast, the radio rebroadcast, wherever you're listening, good evening. It is a pleasure to be with you. My name is Ethan Buchanan, and this is the Next Gen Report. We have got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of things going on. This news kind of broke really just about an hour or so ago. AOC, I guess, has broken up with her longtime fiance. Apparently, this actually happened like 2 years ago, and just nobody knew about it. Which, I will say, I'll give AOC some credit for this. Here's why. You might remember several months ago, on her 1-year wedding anniversary, Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo announced that she had split up with her husband. So they dated for like 8 years. He covered a whole lot of her medical bills from when she was in the crazy house. Apparently blew through all of his savings to do that. And then when she got back from the crazy house, they got married finally after 8 years of being together. And within a year of that, they had split up and called off the marriage. That's pretty crazy to me. But by comparison with AOC, at least she had the common sense and the dignity to just be quiet and reasonable about all this. She didn't go and turn it into a TMZ thing. TMZ did find out, but it was 2 years later. So I guess if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it is that AOC is marginally more respectable of a human being than Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo is. But that is a nice segue into the first thing I want to talk about this evening, which is Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo. I don't talk a whole lot about county stuff, and I think I would like to do that a little bit more because this is the county I live in. So who's running it is important. What's going on here isn't important, but it always kind of falls by the wayside with me. There always seems to be something bigger jumping out that I want to talk about. And then, I burn through my hour and then we're done. But I'm going to take some time here today to talk about Lena Hidalgo. Real quick before we dig into that, let's read some of the chat. Carnifex says, let's go. Let's go, Carnifex. Brad says he will never marry again. He says he will never freeze Carnifex's eggs. Well, listen, I think you and Carnifex would have a very beautiful child together, Brad. And I think you guys need to roll the dice on that. I think you'd be very happy together. All right, let's kick this off. This is the article from the Houston Chronicle. Lena Hidalgo warns Democrats could lose majority in November, says there is blatant pay to play. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo said her Democrat colleagues on Commissioner's Court have abandoned the principles that swept them into office as part of the 2018 Blue Wave and called on voters to scrutinize the court's recent decisions in a scathing post made to Substack. The fusillade is the latest in an ongoing dispute between Hidalgo and her fellow Democrats that emerged after the party achieved a 4-1 supermajority on the court in 2023 and has produced bitter arguments between the county judge and two of her colleagues. The animosity shows no signs of abating as Hidalgo, who did not seek re-election this year, enters her final months in office. Hidalgo said a combination of questionable relationships between her Democratic colleagues, their campaign donors, and the contracts they approve, coupled with recent raises for county law enforcement and subsequent cuts to programs in other departments, are part of the court's backslide into practices she said were common under its pre-2019 Republican majority. All right, so there's a lot to unpack here. On the one hand, she is raising some good points, and I'm glad she's doing it with regards to the Democrats on Commissioner's Court. I mean, it's not hard to go in and find different discussions and topics about suspicious things that Democrats are doing. I'm not making any accusations, but there's some weird stuff. I know Rodney Ellis had a lot of weird warehouses that had a lot of weird like art and stuff in it. I mean, complaints about contracts getting doled out to people that have connections to county commissioners and whatnot. That's nothing new, especially with regards to people like Rodney Ellis. I believe Adrian Garcia has caught a few of these allegations in the past. So she's got a fair point. But don't think she's actually upset that the county might not be being run well, that there might be, issues going on with the day-to-day operations. That's not what she's concerned about. She's mad because her pet programs aren't getting funded. The early childhood education thing that she keeps trying to raise your property taxes over, and it keeps getting shut down. That's what she's upset about. She's mad because her thing isn't being done. She's tried 3, at least 2 for sure times now, to push this new program through, and it keeps getting blocked because everyone on Commissioner's Court except County Judge Lena Hidalgo understands, hey, we're in some tough economic times. Property taxes in the Harris County area, the Houston area, are already really high. We don't really need to be raising them again to continue to fund a program that was started with federal COVID dollars. And she gets upset about that because she's an activist. Her whole identity is these programs that she's pushing. And this, to me, is the real strategic error that Rodney Ellis made in 2018. He threw up Lena Hidalgo because he figured, we're going to lose. It's not going to matter. I'll just pull a policy wonk to throw out this race and she'll lose and we'll go on to the next thing. Unbeknownst to him, there was a blue wave in 2018. Trump was really unpopular. Democrats all over the place won a lot of races, and Lena Hidalgo was part of that. She was never really supposed to be the county judge, and since becoming the county judge, she's been a massive problem because she's an activist. So she's continuing to be an activist even though her job has changed. You can't be an activist anymore. Now you have to be the county judge. Those two things are different. She doesn't understand that separation. She's not going to understand that separation. And because the things that she's an activist for keep getting shut down because they're unworkable, she's now turning her guns on the people that put her where she is now. This is a problem for Rodney Ellis. I don't know how he deals with this other than just waiting her out. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with me through the break. I want to ask you, if you're watching and enjoying the stream right now, give it a like, give it a share, repost it. I want to also ask you to support the sponsor of this show, Deus Vult lapel pins. I have a lot of fun doing the show. I have a lot of fun doing the Tuesday evening live stream, doing the Sunday evening broadcast. All of that is made possible by these guys. Deus Vult lapel pins. They have got a fantastic selection, and it's updating all the time, guys. Every single week. If you went a couple of months ago and you bought some Deus Vult lapel pins, go check out the website again. They've got new ones. You can go grab 3 or 4, use promo code NEXTPIN2026. You can get a decent stock of lapel pins for, under $30, which for 6 or let me not throw out specific prices because then somebody's going to say, well, you're false advertising. For a decent selection of high quality lapel pins for under $30, you can get several. That's a good deal. And NextPin 2026 is the promo code to get that 10% discount. Again, they have got something for everybody, so go check them out. They've got new stuff all the time. All right. You know what? Let's talk about 2028. There's a lot of 2026 stuff we can talk about, and I'm sure we'll get into that. Obviously, we're starting to get into kind of fast and quick time. with that race. New things are happening all of the time with the 2026 primaries. We're really close. Make sure you're registered to vote, by the way. But 2020 is a little farther away. And we're starting to get kind of a picture, at least from the Democrat side, of what that race is going to look like. Obviously, that's the presidential year. Donald Trump will be out of the picture. He keeps joking that he's going to run for a third term. These are jokes. They are funny jokes, but they're jokes. On the Democrat side, we've got a little bit of a conundrum. We don't really know. There's no kind of heir apparent on the Democrat side. There's no obvious candidate. On the Republican side, we got two, J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. Either of them would be great. Both of them will do fantastically well. I would love to see them on a ticket together. It's probably going to happen. If I was a betting man, I would say the Republican ticket is going to be Vance Rubio. I hope that's the ticket. But it might not be. We'll see what happens. On the Democrat side, we have no clue what's going on. And the icing on the cake is they have quite literally no options at all. Here is the article from Axios, 2028 Democratic Power Rankings right now. Number 1, Kamala Harris. Oh my God. Please do it. Please do it. This is the best they've got right now, is Kamala Harris. She's far ahead of every other contender, with black voters still the most important voting bloc in a Democrat primary. Her allies argue that no one else is prepared for a national campaign. She's not prepared for a national campaign. She just ran a national campaign, and it was a disaster. Again, she spent over $1 billion trying to become the president of the United States. What did her donors get for that investment? She's not the president, and her campaign was $20 million in debt by the time she was done. She campaigned so badly that the Democratic National Committee had to get a second mortgage on their campaign headquarters. That's how bad she was doing. And she's the best option they have. She will run, by the way. I guarantee it. So will the number 2 pick, AOC. No one else can possibly claim to be Bernie Sanders' rightful heir, and she channels where the energy of the party is right now. If Bernie endorsed her on day one, she will raise $100 million without talking to a single donor. The question is whether she'd be a top contender, but rather she decides to run for Senate instead. Oh, the question isn't whether she'd be a top contender, but whether she decides to run for Senate instead. If she was smart, she would run for Senate. If she really wanted to just bump up her name ID, get the next highest office, take the next career step, that's what she would do. She will not be the president of the United States. She will be the successor to Bernie Sanders, which is every cycle she'll run, and she'll be one of the first ones out. Bernie Sanders was old reliable in that way. He would show up, he would get young people real excited about the socialisms or whatever, and then the moment the old people started voting, he'd be out. This is what happened 2016. What was that other big presidential race? I believe he ran in 2024. I believe he ran in 2020 as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Let me know in the comments. I think he's ran in all 3 of the last presidential races, and all 3 of them he failed. But he raised a lot of money. He got people really excited. So there's something to be said for that if AOC does take that route. Now, there's some other names on here. Gavin Newsom, I'm sure he'd run. I'm sure he would do fine until, people who used to live in California started voting, and then they'd kind of kick him to the curb. But the real thing that sticks out in this is Kamala Harris is wanting, and definitely will, and is a top contender to run again in 2028. Now, she's already been going out and doing these sort of campaign events almost. I guess they're not technically campaigns because she's not announced a campaign, but she's doing events that look a lot like her campaign events. She's making TikTok videos that look a lot like her campaign TikTok videos. I'll give you an example. This is one that she put out recently, and this looks to me, I could be wrong, but this looks to me like the long-awaited return of drunk Kamala Harris. Take a listen.
19 states have already passed laws to make it more difficult to vote. Then, this president, hey everybody, so they're trying to mess with your ability to vote, just to break it all down. You've got the Supreme Court. They just sealed the deal with this case that just came up recently, the Calais decision, which basically took the power out of the Voting Rights Act, which was designed to protect your right to vote. So you got the Supreme Court doing its.
You guys notice how she didn't ever, like, explain that? The Calais decision took the power out of the Voting Rights Act to protect your right to vote. So wait, we can't go vote anymore? No, you can. You can still go vote. And it's exactly the same. You're just in a different congressional district, which happens every 10 years anyway. Okay, so what's the big deal here?
Thing. Then this president is trying to push this SAVE Act, which basically would require that for people to register to vote, you're going to have proof of who you are.
The horror! You have to have proof of who you are to vote? The humanity! Literally, it's just a photo ID. That's all. That's it. That's all it is. Really, any state ID will work. The text of the law literally says any real ID compliant ID will work. Texas has this exact system in place right now. It's not hurting anyone's ability to vote. It's not that hard. She's just being a drama queen. But look at her mannerisms. Just watch her cadence and how she talks. She looks drunk, which was a big problem for her during the campaign, as I'm sure you'll recall. People kept saying she looks constantly like she's drunk.
Through a passport, which a lot of Americans don't have, or a birth certificate. Same point, obstacles to make it difficult for you to register to vote. And then you got the states. 19 states have already passed laws to make it more difficult to vote. And the ones that haven't passed a law are doing it in practice in many places around our country.
See, she shoots herself in the foot here with this argument. This is so terrible. It's so hard. And also 19 states have already done it. So I guess it really doesn't matter that much. Like, you can't simultaneously say, this is such a big deal. This is such a threat to your rights. And also a huge portion of the country has already done it. So I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Come on. What are we doing here? She's just not good at this. She looks weird. She looks awkward. She looks like she's trying to find the words in the middle of taping the video. You're a professional. You have the equipment. Presumably you have some money behind you. Buy a teleprompter. Although I guess maybe she's just so in debt from her last presidential campaign she can't afford a teleprompter. I don't know. But either way, come on, lady. This is not that difficult. She keeps spewing this lie that, oh, you'll need a passport. You don't need a passport. You need a real ID. A passport will work. You can use a passport, but you don't need a passport in order to register to vote. That's ridiculous. Even under the SAVE Act, that's ridiculous. Alrighty, ironically enough, Kamala Harris is a fantastic segue into our next topic, which is the state of Massachusetts. And if you've been paying attention to the news today, you've already seen what I'm about to tell you about, but maybe you haven't, and I'm going to bring you this news for the first time. But before I do it, I want to play you this video. This is a couple years old. This is from Kamala Harris back during the 2024 election cycle. She did this thing, and it's very common among Democrats. Whenever Republicans have a concern that they're going too far, that the Democrats are going too far, the Democrats will turn around and say, no, 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 that's not happening. It's ridiculous that you would even think it's happening. And one of the things that they do this a lot on is abortion. This is Kamala Harris doing exactly that, talking about how the Republican concern about abortion up to birth is just a silly concern to even have because it's not even happening. Take a listen to this.
They say that allows Democrats to perform abortions up until, birth.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is not accurate.
And it's ridiculous, and it's a mischaracterization of the point. No, the point is, we have to, I am being precise. We need to put into law the protections of Roe versus Wade. And that is about going back to where we were before the Dobbs decision.
But if there is the possibility through legislation to provide any kind of guarantee at the federal level, any kind of protection, like the Republican proposal of 15 weeks protection.
The Republicans are also members of the Republican Party are also proposing a national ban. The thing that
I'm talking about the Lindsey Graham bill, as you know, and those proposals of giving some access, though that's 15 weeks. Why do you think it shouldn't be specific? You know, out in New Mexico, for example, the governor there says it shouldn't be nailed down to a week because it should be a private matter between a woman and her doctor. There shouldn't be a precise number put on that. Is that what you believe as well?
I believe that we should put the protections of Roe v. Wade into law in the way that will.
They say that allow.
All right, so it's ridiculous that Republicans are scared that there'll be, you know, abortion up to birth all over the country because we just want the protections of Roe v. Wade. We just want Roe v. Wade back. That's all we want. Okay, well, what about a 15-week ban? She wouldn't say yes to that. That's the heartbeat ban. That's commonly looked at as the like middle ground option between pro-abortion activists and anti-abortion activists. A lot of folks will say, okay, well, 15 weeks, that's when you have a heartbeat. That's when there's at least some degree of viability outside the womb. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but 15 weeks, for whatever reason, is like the compensation middle ground that people throw out all the time. There should be no compensation. There should be no middle ground. The correct answer is national abortion ban. However, the idea that Kamala Harris is pushing, that the idea that we'd be concerned about abortion up to birth is ridiculous. Because even at the time she said that, I believe 10 different states allowed abortion up to birth. And now Massachusetts has become the 11th. This is from EWTN News. Massachusetts becomes the 11th state with no abortion limits as Governor Healey signs bill. Now, that's not ambiguous text. It means exactly what it says. No abortion limits. That means up to birth. That it's perfectly clear. There's no gray area here. The exact thing that Kamala Harris in that clip was saying, it's ridiculous that we'd be concerned about it. This is the policy that they're actually pushing, and not just pushing, enacting. This has become the law. The only difference now between a human being and a clump of cells, quote unquote, is whether or not it's in the womb. You could have a 40-week-old, ready to go, bouncing baby child, but as long as it's still in the womb, it's the mother's choice, and we can just kill it if it's an inconvenience, or if we don't think it's properly formed enough, or we don't like whatever defect or feature. This has no limits. Democratic Governor Maura Healey signed a bill allowing abortion at any point in a pregnancy in the state of Massachusetts, making it the 11th state to impose no limits on abortion. The legislation signed August 10th removes all of the state's restrictions on abortion after 24 weeks. An elective late-term abortion may be done based upon the professional judgment of the physician performing it under the law. There is not a single doctor out there performing abortions that's going to say, oh, no, I think this baby's fine. I'm not giving you an abortion. It's not happening because then they don't get paid. This is evil. This is what this is. This isn't like a policy disagreement. This isn't just, oh, the religious radical Republicans are at it again. This is evil. This legislation that has been signed and is now the law in Massachusetts is literally just giving people permission to kill babies. Not just fetuses, not just clumps of cells, or whatever word you want to throw out there to coddle your conscience. This law allows people to kill babies. Straight up just babies. Anna Lulis posted this video on X. 34-week-old baby. This is what it looks like outside the womb. I think at 34 weeks old, you're still considered a preemie because full term is 40 weeks, I think. So this is a premature baby, and you can see it's alive and it's well. This baby, had it been inside the womb in Massachusetts today, is subject to the death penalty at any given moment for no crime whatsoever. That is evil. That's not just a policy I disagree with. That's not just something I don't like. This isn't just me being a silly Republican. This is evil. This is truly morally evil stuff. But shock of shock, the leftists are all tickled pink about this. I want to show you the video from the signing ceremony for this law. This has been going around recently, and I think just this video says a lot. Take a listen, take a watch. It's camera flashing. The vile wench is signing the law. And everybody's clapping and cheering and smiling. Look at us, we're all so happy. You evil witches. And I mean that in every possible sense of the word. I mean, she's got just this crowd of ladies behind her, and every single one of them just looks like a vile, disgusting hag. I mean, literally every single one. They've got these evil grins, evil eyes. All of them just look like evil people, and they are. That's why they look evil. It's because they are evil. I mean, honestly, I raised this question earlier this morning on X when I first saw that this law had been passed. If you're in the state of Texas like I am, or if you're in any state other than the state of Massachusetts, how are you served by sharing a country with these absolutely vile hags? What upside do we have? What is in it for us? We are forced to share a nation with people that would sign this law nationally if you gave them a chance. They would love to impose this on the state of Texas. They would love to impose this on the entire country. And they share nothing with us. They've rejected whatever shared history we might have. Maybe you could argue we're bound together because we have some shared history. But to be honest, I'm a Texan. My history started in 1835. The colonial United States is great, but this is what it has led to, and Texas is better, frankly. So they've rejected our shared history, and so that's fine. I'm happy to let them do it. We clearly don't have any shared values, because I look at a baby and I say, this is an important thing that needs to be protected and nurtured and raised. And you look at it, you evil hags, and say, this is something that I'm just going to kill if it's an inconvenience to me. There's no statute of limitations on that. There's no limiting principle. At what point does it become a baby? Is it just the magically slipping through the birth canal that, boom, now it's a baby? It's not a clump of cells anymore? And if so, what's so special about that? And how long before we say that doesn't matter either? There is no limiting principle. You people just don't value life. It's not important to you. It's important to me. I highly doubt we have a shared faith. We don't have shared values. We barely have shared history, as I already stated. So why in the hell are we in a union with the state of Massachusetts? That's something I want you to chew on. That's something I want you to think about. What in the world do we have to gain from continuing on and looking at Massachusetts and saying, you're one of us, we're kindred, we are a shared country, a shared people? I want nothing to do with these people. They're evil. And I truly, truly, truly mean that, and may God have mercy on their souls. Alrighty, I want to close out real quick by pointing out one other thing that's insane and is going on in Massachusetts. This is something that kind of, I think, maybe rightfully flew under the radar thanks to the abortion news. The abortion news is by far more important, but this is also worth pointing out. There are those in the Massachusetts House, their state legislature, that are pushing to create a Muslim commission to help place Muslims in government and shape state policy. That's according to Natalie Winters, who is the White House correspondent for Steve Bannon's War Room. Here is the actual piece of legislation. She posted a picture of it on X. By Representative Howard of Lowell, a petition accompanied by Bill House number of Vanna Howard, Manny Cruz. Basically, let's get to the text. Section 71A, there shall be a permanent commission on the status of peoples who practice Islam, consisting of 11 persons as follows. 2 persons appointed by the governor, 1 person appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, 1 person appointed by the President of the Senate, 1 person appointed by the Attorney General, 2 persons appointed by the State Secretary, 2 persons appointed by the Senate Chair of the Massachusetts General Court's Joint Committee on Racial Equality, Civil Rights, and Inclusion, and 2 persons appointed by the House Chair of Massachusetts General Court's Joint Committee on Racial Equity, Civil Rights, and la-di-da-di-da. It would also assess programs and practices in all state agencies and could request from the state agencies whatever information and assistance the commission requires. It would advise the executive and legislature on proposed laws. The commission would serve as a liaison between government and private interest groups. The private interest groups in this case being Muslims. Now, this has flown completely under the radar. It's being pushed by Democrats. And I want to contrast that with a bill here in Texas that, despite becoming law months ago and even passing through court challenges and being approved multiple times by various different courts, is still facing pushback. Texas has a law that requires all public school classrooms to display a copy of the 10 Commandments. It doesn't require you to teach on it. It doesn't require you to talk about it. It just requires it to be there on the wall. And the logic behind that is this document, the 10 Commandments, is thousands of years old and has been the bedrock of the legal system in Western countries, of which America is one, for literally thousands of years. So it's important. And it has received massive pushback because this is viewed as Christian nationalism or whatever, I guess. Versus this, where you have a piece of legislation being pushed that would require Islam to have an outsized influence in the governing affairs of the state of Massachusetts, which, for the record, was founded as a Protestant colony. And this is the double standard that we're dealing with. God forbid the Christians want to teach about a core founding document that happens to be Christian in nature. But if you want to bring in a bunch of Muslims and basically use legislation to force them into every corner of the state's government, that's completely fine. We won't even talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. This is insane. And again, I ask, why in the world do we have any interest in sharing a nation with the state of Massachusetts? Massachusetts has influence over the federal government. They're one of the states. They have 2 senators too. What happens there matters. These type of policies can be pushed at the federal level. And if they can be pushed at the federal level, that means they can be passed at the federal level. I don't want that. I don't want to be governed by Islamists. I don't want to be governed by people who think killing a whole baby just because you want to is fine. The answer is no for me. I don't want that. So why do I share a country with these people? What is in it for me? What is the upside to me taking on these risks? Because this is a risk. I don't know. All right, moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit about data centers because this is something that people continue to freak out about. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think data centers are that big of a deal. You can feel free to disagree with me on that. You can feel free to sit here and say, oh, we don't need any data centers. I don't want any data centers, la-di-da-di-da. The reality is, whether you like it or not, we do need the data centers. This is a reality. And if you don't believe me, you're listening to my voice right now. That is because of a data center. It just is. I would love to say we can just do pure broadcast terrestrial radio forever, and that's all we need. And we'll never have to have another data center. We can throw out the internet. The reality is, that's not reality. We need the data centers. Data has to go somewhere. If you use Facebook, guess what? Think a data center. If you use X, think a data center. If you listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video, think a data center. If you upload pictures of your kids or grandkids onto the cloud so that you don't lose them if you drop your phone in the toilet, think a data center. That's all data centers. I will give Greg Abbott some credit here. I think he's pushing a very reasonable requirement for these data centers, which is, hey, cover some of the costs that you're going to generate. If you're going to come and build a data center here, don't just kick that all back to everybody who's having to now pay more money for their electricity. You've got to actually contribute to the supply of electricity if you're going to use a huge amount. Contribute to the supply of water if you're going to use a lot of water. This seems reasonable to me. Check this out. This is from his office. Governor Abbott announces Oracle commits to comply with his data center standards. Governor Abbott today announced that Oracle will comply with the standards and guidelines he established for data centers. Earlier this summer, Governor Abbott established clear, common sense statewide standards to ensure data center development does not come at the expense of Texas families or communities. The governor directed the Public Utilities Commission of Texas and the Electric Reliability Council of Texas to ensure data centers pay for their electrical infrastructure instead of shifting costs, reuse their own water, reduce the cost of electricity for Texans, do not disrupt residential neighborhoods, and pay their own way and eliminate reliance on outdated taxpayer-funded incentives. This all makes perfect sense to me. I mean, you can say, oh, we don't want data centers, but the reality is they're going to happen one way or the other. It makes sense for them to happen here in Texas. We've got plenty of space. We've got real estate. We're not short on land. And to everybody that says, oh, what about the farms? We've got plenty of space that is unfarmable that we can put some data centers on. We are not going to run out of room in Texas because we're building 10 data centers. We could build 20 data centers and it wouldn't hurt our supply of spare land. We've got plenty of space. Texas is huge. It's kind of our whole personality. It's not that big of a deal, but things like, hey, my power's now double, triple the cost because of data centers down the road, that is a legitimate concern. That should be addressed. This plan addresses it. Abbott is saying if you want to build this data center here, you're going to have to probably also build some sort of power generation along with it. I like the idea of them building up some small nuclear plants. And that's what we run our data centers on, and that will create excess energy. That excess energy can go back onto the grid and it will lower costs. Make sure you're reusing water. We can manage water. It's not that hard. The fact that we have water problems now, that's not because of data centers. That's because of poor management. The issue is not the data centers, it's the poor management. We can address these things. AI data centers, or just data centers in general, can be part of the solution to that problem. But that doesn't happen if we're just saying, no, AI is scary, I don't want data centers. I hate to break it to you folks, but 1990 ain't coming back, neither is 1980 or 1970. The world you grew up in is gone. Kiss it goodbye. I'm sorry. We are living in the future now. That's going to require some sacrifices. And maybe one of those sacrifices is the piece of land that used to be just a big piece of land is now a big piece of land that has a data center in it. Whoop-de-doo. You'll be fine. Thank you very much for listening to the Next Gen Report. It has been a pleasure. And we will see you Sunday evening, AM 950 KPRC, 7 p.m. Tune in.